YouTube, Ninja Midget here with a complete assembly of the Smith & Wesson M&P 9. This is the full size, but it is also very similar to the smaller, more compact versions and the Shield as well. Pretty simple, not simple, pretty easy to put together. There are some complexities and some things that are just a little difficult to go together because it does go together kind of like a puzzle. Okay, now first we're going to start off with our mag release. This goes in like this. The first thing you're going to want to do is you see this part down here. That's the actual magazine catch. You want to pull that back just so that can get in there, so you can get your safety in there. And from there, you can see it's not quite hooked on that little indent there. So all you're going to do is you're going to slide it over until it catches there. And that just is a matter of doing that. I'm not sure if I got that on camera or not, but there it is in place. Okay, so first things first. First thing we need to do is we're going to go ahead and get our slide stop, and we're going to get our trigger and our trigger bar, and you want to make sure that the spring is oriented in this position. The larger loop goes on the top, the smaller loop goes on the bottom. The opening of that is toward the top of the gun. So what you want to do is, if you got the Apex trigger kit, you got this little slave pin that works really well for putting this part of the gun together. So what you do is you're going to go ahead and get your slave pin in here with these two pieces together. Can be kind of tricky sometimes, and yeah, I didn't get that spring on there, so we'll go ahead and push that back out and start over again. So we'll get our spring up in there. See if we can get that captured. I believe, yes, that's captured. There we go. You want to make sure that that spring is captured down there, and it is. Okay, so next what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to lay this right in place like that. Now, we're not quite ready to finish this up yet. What we're going to need to do is we're going to put in our front block. And you want to make sure that you put your little piece of spring steel back in here just like that. And then this is going to slide down over everything, and it's going to slide the trigger bar and everything is going to slide in place. And if you got that slave pin in, sometimes it wants to kind of catch on that. Take a little something and give it a push so it's out of the way. There we go. Now this will slide right down into place, just like this. And there we go. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to grab our trigger pin and get this started. Usually you just wiggle it around a little bit, it'll get started in there. There it is. You hear a click. That means it's kind of getting started. Give it some soft taps. Make sure we're lined up here. Looks like maybe this trigger could be up a little bit. There it goes. And that's just going to tap that slave pin out the other side. Just like that. And there you go. Okay. So that's in place now. Okay, we're good to go there. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and we're going to start putting together our sear. All of the hardware on our sear group here. So the first thing that we're going to want to put in is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put in this little bar. This is the release for when you move this, it will push your sear up out of the way so that you do not have to pull the trigger to move the slide forward. This one is really simple. All you do is you lay it in there just like that. Then you're going to set the spring right on here. You're going to give it some downward pressure and just slide it underneath that lip. Just, and it wants to It wants to squirt out sideways sometimes, so you may have to do it a couple times to get it started right. But it'll eventually just go in there. Not on camera. These things, man, they go in nice when you're just doing them off camera, or when your camera's set to the wrong resolution, say. But not so much when you're on camera. Everything's set up right. You got all your lighting. Resolution's correct. And then it doesn't want to go in. There we go. And that's that. Okay. And then this is our smaller pin that doesn't have a head on it. You got these two pins that go in this group. This one uses the smaller pin. And you just want to get that through there. A little bit of wiggling. Shouldn't really need any persuasion on this. You don't want to go tapping on it, because it should just slide in place just like this. And there it is. Okay, and that's your little bar all set up. That pushes your sear up out of the way. Okay, now what we want to do is we're going to get our sear spring and our plunger. And what helps with putting this together is I've got a little white lithium grease, little white gun grease on here, and it keeps those two together, so they're not falling apart and coming out on you when you're trying to put this together. And it also helps it stick in that hole, so it's not coming out of that hole on you. There we go, that's in there. Okay, you're going to want to get that in. Then we're going to go ahead and get our sear, and our sear goes in just like this. We're going to get our pin ready, because what we're going to want to do is put downward and backward pressure. And I mean, it's putting pressure this way. You want to do that. Try and get that hole so that it's lined up about where it should be. You can usually see when you're getting it close. It does take a little bit of just fiddling around with it to get it in the right position, and then your pin will just slide right through, and that protruding part back here is normal. That's the way it should be. Okay, so there we go, and you can see as we rotate this, pushes our sear up out of the way, so it's functioning. Okay, next part, we want to go ahead and take our little tiny spring. This is our detent for our safety. Going to put the spring in, and then it is going to go in right in this little space right here. And to do that, you're just going to put it in, put some backward pressure on it, and then slide it down in place just like that. And that'll stay in there for you. Okay, there we go. Now what we're going to do is we're going to get our safety in place. If you don't have this, you don't need to worry about it. If you do have the safety, it goes on just like this, so you can see that hole down in there. Now comes one of the trickier parts of putting this gun together, and that is getting this in. Let me show you what needs to happen here. The trigger bar, this part of the trigger bar right here, goes right inside this little area right here. Now the trick with this is, if you got a safety, is that your safety is kind of covering that up, so you really can't see where it's going. But the general thing you want to do is you want to push your trigger back. You want to come in at an angle, usually like this kind of an angle, and try and get that down in there in that little spot, and then rotate it around so you can get that down in there. And this is really just a matter of it needs to get in the right orientation before it'll fall in place, and when it does, it'll go in just easy. But until it's in that right spot, it's gonna just feel like it doesn't want to go anywhere on you. Let that just go in place. It did. Alright. Now, to get this in place, to get the pin in on this, you have to, it's easiest if you get something to get this started. That's by putting your pin through here. Just like this. That allows you to get your roll pin started. Your roll pin does have one side that tapers a little bit more than the other, so you're going to want to insert that end first. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to just tap it on down. And let it tap that pin out. Okay, that's not completely flush, but it's good enough for now. Okay, so next we're going to go ahead and we're going to put our tapered end in on this side, and this pin usually goes in a little bit easier. Oops, don't smack your frame. That won't do. Okay, so got those in. Now you want to make sure and give your trigger a pull. Make sure that your trigger bar is functioning. Make sure your safety is functioning if you have one. Make sure your slide stop is functioning. Okay, the last part of the frame we're going to want to put in is our takedown lever. And you see that little spring there. And then on this side of the takedown lever you see a little ridge. That ridge goes right over that spring, so you can then turn it and it's going to pop right in place. Then you're going to turn it down and it's going to pop in the rest of the way. Ooh, and it looks like I didn't quite get this seated all the way, so give that a quick tap, and there we go. There's your frame completely assembled. This part is a little bit of a pain in the neck. More often than not, I've found that I don't have it forward enough for it to slide down in the frame. So try getting it a little more forward than you think it should go, because there's this little ridge that it goes over right on this side. You can see it. There's a little ridge right on this group, this sear group, that needs to go a little bit in front of this edge right here, and then it seems to slide down in place. I think I actually might have found the trick to it. And of course I'll forget it by the next time I'm doing this. Next time I do this I will have forgotten, and I'll have to figure it out all over again. Okay, that's the frame. Let's go ahead and move on to our slide. Okay, so now that we got our frame done, we're going to go ahead and move on to our slide. And the first thing we'll do, I think, is we're going to go ahead and put in our plunger. So plunger goes in first, your little spring goes in second, and then this little piece right here with the pin on top of it. Now some of these are just a round metal disc. I think the one on my shield is just a round metal disc. So if you don't have that little pin, don't worry, it's just the way it is. Okay, now what you want to do is we're going to go ahead and push this down while we get this started. Okay, there we go. Now we're just going to go ahead and use our brass punch, and I'll probably do this off camera because this is just, I don't want to knock the camera around. Everyone knows how to drift on a sight. Pretty simple, straightforward. Use a brass punch so that you're not marring up your gun. Take it slow. Try to rush it. Light taps. It will go on. Just don't want to use too much on it and mar things up. Now, a sight pusher is a great tool to have. I do actually have one. I just don't use it on videos like this because it's a tool that not everybody has. Okay, is that almost even? Let's give it another tap. That's perfect. Okay, so we got that in. Now we're going to go ahead and put our set screw in. Notice there's some of the red Loctite on there. These guns come with red Loctite, as I mentioned in my video on taking this thing apart. You got to put heat on that to get that to break loose. You don't want to try wrenching on that red Loctite. The blue is the stuff that's meant to be broken with just a little bit of force. The red stuff needs heat to break it. So that's the permanent stuff. Alright, now let's see. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get our block again, because this is a real good thing to have when you're working on these guns. These blocks are just awesome. They come in handy. Okay, so we have 2 springs that go in here. First things first. This goes in right like this. Excuse me, it does not. I'm lying. This goes in right like this. You can see that there is a channel where this goes. Right in this plastic piece. See that little channel? See if I can get a good view of this. So that's how that goes in. You see the little corners there? This slides right down in, just like this. That's the way that's going to go on. Then, when you got that in the right orientation, you're going to go ahead and put this right in here. Oops. Get that on camera. Get my stuff out of the way here. Get that on camera, because this is really a great tool to have. So, when you get this piece on just like this, you're going to slide it right down in there like that. And then we're going to go ahead and get our spring and our little cap. And then we're going to push down on our spring just so we can get into here and put our little cap on. Up comes your spring. There it is, put together. That makes it so much easier having that. I love that tool, and it's one of those tools I only ever use it when I work on these guns, which is not often. I'm not always taking them apart, but it just helps to have that tool when you need it. Alright, let's go ahead and do our extractor next. Extractor's pretty straightforward. Drop your pin in the hole right there. Then you're going to want to, it goes in like this, and you're going to roll it back. It doesn't just slide in. You want to roll that thing on back. And then you can see where this line matches when you push that down. So you're going to want to go ahead and get your little roll pin started. Oops, a little crooked there. There, you can tell when it started because it goes perpendicular. There you go. And I believe, nope, not quite. It's not quite in. You can tell because it wants to pop out on you a little. Nope. Sometimes you want to give it a little extra push in. There it is. You can tell when you get that right hit on it. And then this just needs to be drifted down in place. Not too much. Doesn't take too much on that. Just take it and drift it down so it's flush. And there you go. Got that in place. Your extractor's working fine. Okay, now we are going to go ahead and put in our firing pin. It goes in just like this. Okay. Oh, and one thing you want to do, of course, you got to push your plunger so this goes in there. Okay, now what we're going to want to do is we're going to grab our little plate that goes on the back. We want to get that started. Get it in the right orientation. Get it started. And just take a little screwdriver and push straight back. then this will fall right in place. And there you go. There's your slide, completely assembled. Not too difficult. This is one of the easier parts, areas of the gun to work on. It's just everything goes together so nicely. It's very well designed. Okay, put our barrel in, put our recoil spring in, and go ahead and make sure you got your breakdown lug in the right position. Go ahead and slide your slide on. Oops. There we go. And there it is. Oh. One of the things you need to do, that little lever in there, you need to just reach in and pop that baby up because that's holding your sear. Oops, hitting my camera again. Okay, and then there you go. Safety works. Don't have a magazine down here with me because I was actually going to put the gun away, and then I realized that I needed to do it all over again. So there you go. Safety works. Slide hold works. Everything is golden. Alright, this has been the complete assembly of this M&P 9. Hope this helps somebody out there. Thanks for watching.